Hey guys, this is Randy back here from Smart Dog School. Guys, I wanted to come to you today to talk about a subject that is kind of thrown around a lot lately, and in about all of my consultations, private lessons, we go over this quite a bit. And it's the subject with a label of consequences. Um, you say that word to a lot of people, and a lot of people automatically assume negative consequences. This is um, this is usually all we use it for when it comes to the human world. You know, you're going to suffer the consequences of that action. You do something wrong and you receive a consequence. The courts get brought in quite a bit. You know, law enforcement, things like that is always in the brain when we talk about consequences. But in our industry, in the dog training world, we look at consequences a little bit differently because we have to look at it from both sides. We have to look at it from a positive standpoint and a negative. Now, again, positive and negative thrown around quite a bit. What we want to do as trainers, and the only thing that we really do, and I've been asked this quite a bit, is to, what exactly is a trainer's job? And I always say a trainer's job is to control the consequences to change the probability of a future behavior. That's just technical for saying, look, whatever happens after a choice is going to be the consequence. So you choose to, I don't know, eat snacks every single day like myself, you're going to have a consequence. It's going to be negative. You're going to gain weight, higher blood sugar, things like that. However, if you choose to run every single day and eat vegetables a lot, you're gonna have a much better cardiovascular health. That's a consequence as well. That's a good consequence. So both good and bad go into play here when we're training dogs. Every time I get a phone call or I get a person that comes in, we sit down and we start talking. I start assessing, the challenging behavior. The challenging behavior usually has been accidentally reinforced, meaning that every time the dog has made a choice to do something, it's been able to do it. We're not meaning to do it as humans. We don't intentionally just allow these things to happen. But that particular consequence of the dog making the choice to say, grab food off the table, that is a positive consequence to the dog, even though after it receives it, we run in, we grab it, we try to maintain the situation. We sometimes yell at the dog, whatever, because we're upset. All of those are, again, probably positive consequences for the dog if the dog likes us being near them. There is so many, theories out there as to why dogs sometimes do things that they know they shouldn't do, why they do things that are primal, snatching food, they don't have any barriers in place. There's a lot of things that go on there. But the reason I wanted to come to you today was to talk about the consequences of everybody's choice, not just the dog's, everybody's choice. However, there's one particular thing that we always forget about in front of the choice, and I always talk about it. It's the opportunity. So when we talk about consequences, what comes right before a consequence is a choice. What comes right before a choice is an opportunity. So using all three of those to assess a challenging, unwanted behavior, something you would like to change, which is usually what I get contacted with, then we have to look at all three. So I'll take the example I just told you about, snatching food off the table, also known as counter surfing or table surfing. When the opportunity's there, meaning the dog is off leash, the dog is typically unsupervised, their food is on the counter, and that would be considered an opportunity. The opportunity to do the behavior is there. Now, the next thing is the dog has to be able to make that choice, whether they're going to do it or not. This is the part where most people say, well, my dog, knows it shouldn't do it, but does it anyway. There's only a few reasons a dog's going to do something it knows not to do. And it's either A, it was not trained to the point where they understand it, meaning that the conditioning wasn't done enough. B, they're over aroused and they just simply can't function the way that they were trained to function, meaning it's kind of like if you were, right in the middle of a very important meeting or a very important, you're playing a sport, or God forbid you're getting robbed or something silly, that your arousal is really high and somebody asks you to, eat something really quick. It's kind of like I know how to, but I can't. I'm too aroused. I can't do it. I have to calm down first. And the last one, which is what a lot of my friends, colleagues, clients think, is that the dog's being, blatantly disobedient. It's usually not that one. It's usually the first one. The conditioning factor is not there. So, the dog knowing it shouldn't do it, we have an assumption that that they have that understanding, the implied knowledge where no comes from. But normally they haven't been conditioned well enough to make that choice. Now, how do we condition well enough to make the choice? That's what controlling the consequences is all about. If the animal, the dog, the person, whatever, makes the choice to do a behavior and something really uncomfortable happens, something that they don't like, something that they're willing to work to avoid happens right after that. That means that in the future, the probability, and that's all we can control here, guys, is the probability goes up that we can, that they're going to make a different choice. The probability that they're going to change that particular choice later. And the choice would be either to avoid the behavior or to acquire the good consequence. So avoid the bad consequence, acquire the good one. Both start with A. It's how I remember them. At the end of the day, everything boils down to those three parts in dog training. We have the opportunity, the choice, and the consequence. From the trainer's perspective, we can control the consequence, by issuing, something the dog likes or something the dog doesn't like, and that's going to control the choice in the future. I should say manipulate the choice in the future. The very, very first part of that, though, the opportunity, that's going to be on you guys, because we can look at what we give kids the opportunity to do every day, or what we give anything the opportunity to do. If you look at a school, the school for your children, they control the opportunity quite well. I mean, you think about what they do throughout the day. They sit in chairs, right? They sit in chairs in a building the doors are shut, in a room where the doors are shut, around people they're not allowed to talk to, and they have to sit in chairs. It almost sounds like torture to a little bit. And some kids, I guarantee, ask your little ones, they'll probably agree. But that's a controlled environment where the teacher is controlling the opportunity for the kids to make the right choices, or at least the choices they want them to make, so that the consequence of making the right choices is good, and they can hopefully repeat that later. So every time your dog does something that is considered unwanted with your family, I want you to think about three things. I want you to think, how did they have the opportunity to make that choice? The choice that they made, did they get a good or a bad consequence? A good or a bad consequence is going to be up to the dog, not us. So it's something they liked or didn't like. That's the only thing that's going to be able to manipulate that choice in the future. So again, look at the situation, consider the choice, and then what did the dog get out of it? Did they get something they liked or they disliked? Also, something where they're not, they're able to do something and you don't think they're rewarded, like they bark at the mailman or they bark at the FedEx guy, and that's an unwanted behavior, yet every single day they do the same thing. Trust me, they're getting something out of it. There is a good consequence in there, okay? But anyway, I let this video go on a little bit too long. It's close to 10 minutes, so I'll close with that. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us anytime. My name's Randy with Smart Dog School. Be happy to help you guys. Have a good rest of your day.